So a very good morning to all fellow students. I suppose that all who have joined, you are postgraduate students. And as introduced by Narissa, I'm Ivy. So I'm happy to be given the opportunity to share with all of you about UTM Research Ethics Committee and some fundamental principles involving research ethics and its application. So let's look at this, right? What is research ethics? Now, research ethics is referred to norms and values that guide decisions regarding the collection of data, right? It's a norms and values, right? And throughout the analysis of data and also the dissemination of findings, I have to talk about this fundamental because once you have that good idea or the basic idea about what research ethics is, when I move on to the second part of today's sharing, when I talk about how you should apply and what are the steps involved, then you will have a better idea, right? So when talk about research ethics, it actually consists of a set of scientific norms, and one of the core norms is the truth norm over here. What is a truth norm? Whenever you plan to conduct research, you want to conduct research, the truth norm always refers to the search for truth, right? You're curious, you wanted to know what's the truth, and you're committed to the truth, and also committed to the integrity and honesty. And these are the preconditions for quality and reliability in research. And please stop me anytime if you have more questions about that, yeah? So when we talk about research ethics, it refers to all the moral principles that guide researcher in the process of first designing, second conducting, and thirdly reporting our research studies. So when we talk about that, you can see that it actually covers the entire process of your research, right? As as early as when you're designing your research. So some of the students, I do receive applications from the PI. They applied for research ethics approval after they have actually completed their research. So do you think that this is okay? Yes or no? Do you think we should apply for research ethics approval before or after the conduct of our research? Yes, great job, Chu Hong, yeah, Narissa, great one. Yes, yes, definitely. Why? Because it covers the process as early as while you are designing. So definitely when you apply for research ethics approval, it's definitely before the conduct of your research, right? Right. And why is it important? Because these principles help to ensure that the research is conducted in a way that protects what? Protects the rights, the dignity, and the welfare of our research participants. And that's our responsibility as a researcher, right? In order to ensure that our research is conducted in a way that is scientifically valid and credible. All right? So far, so good? So let me move on to how to determine the best courses of action, right? I think it is when conducting research, we need to always at our best ability to determine the best courses of action, particularly when our research involves humans and animals, yeah? Today I only covers humans because we do have another subcommittee that covers research ethics when you're using animals, right? And what are the important parameters? The parameters that we wanted to guide and govern are, first, researchers' behavior. What do you do and how do you do that? And that involves research practices. How do you collect the data? How do you inform your participants about where you are collecting their data? And the entire research process in order to what? To protect our research participants and to ensure that, we reach our research objectives ethically. Now, so to ensure that our research is conducted ethically, we are very concerned about, first, what the IP plans to do. Who is IP? principal PI, principal investigator, sorry. So what the PI, the principal investigator, plans to do. So if you are the researcher, the main researcher, we are concerned about what you plan to do and who will you be recruiting, when the data will be collected, and how the research will be conducted, and how the data will be collected from the participants. For example, if you're doing a video recording of your participants, definitely you need to get their consent, isn't it? But how do you ensure that they feel comfortable and they are at ease, and they feel secure when you are doing all the recording process? So this is part of the research ethics. And what are the ways, as I said, that to protect the welfare of our participants? So we always have in mind when we are conducting research. I do observe that some of the researchers are only concerned about, oh, this is my research, so this is what I wanted to achieve. But they lack probably, the awareness about that I need to protect my participants' welfare. I need to ensure that, that I safeguard their privacy and take care of the confidentiality of their data. So this is our concern. So when we talk about non-clinical research, we are referring to the human subjects. Yeah. So if you are handling document analysis, if you are not in contact with human subjects directly, then that would be other procedures involved. Yeah. So over here today, we are talking about that your participants are human. So human subjects refers to an individual who is exposed to a research intervention. Right, research intervention involving, like, you are conducting a treatment, right? You are observing your participants, or you're asking your participants to complete a task or to fill up a survey or questionnaire, right? So an individual here, we are talking about who is identifiable through direct or indirect means. For example, you ask to collect their name, you ask to get their photograph, you are referring to their personal ID, because I do see that questionnaires who involve items such as, please write down your personal ID. For example, your identification, your IC number. Please write down your name. Please write down your race, etc., etc. Please write down your salary. These are all private and sensitive information. For example, other private and sensitive information would include medical history, their sexual preference, where some of our subjects or human or participants, they might feel uncomfortable or probably not so at ease when answering all the questions, right? And also we are concerned about individuals who participate in activities that might have potential risk or benefits, to them. For example, you are conducting a physical exercise and you think that this should be, bring more benefit than risk. But how do you know and how do you ensure that? Or for example, you are trained in counseling and psychology and you wanted to do a specific intervention and you think that, yeah, you are going to bring more benefits to them, but who knows, right? Or you wanted to do a social experiment and you are involving human participants, and that might incur some potential risk. So as a researcher, it's our responsibility to ensure that we carefully calculated the risk and also the benefits when we are conducting research that do no harm. Never harm your participants. Now, for example, I want to talk probably a little bit about collecting qualitative data. Now, qualitative data involving using instrument, where we normally name it as your interview protocol. And why interview protocol is so important? Because you know how, or you planned the process of conducting your interview, right? And your interviewing questions are supposedly being verified and validated by an expert of several experts, right? And this is important. Why? We wanted to make sure that when you started the interview, you probably need to record the voice, you probably need to record their facial expression, you are going to transcribe their data, and probably throughout the process, your participants feel uncomfortable, especially when we are involving vulnerable groups. Just quote an example. When you're interviewing refugees, when you are interviewing the people with certain addictions, and sometimes because you wanted so much and you have your own prior judgment, you are not aware that when you respond, when you ask questions, they actually feel hurt and they feel uncomfortable. And when they feel uncomfortable, how do you protect them? How do you support them? So this is something when the committee, we, are being responsible to overseeing, to ensure that their rights have been protected. And this is why, as researcher, you have to apply for ethics approval so that you're also in a part of the process of being responsible and as being, especially your SV, the principal investigator, is solely responsible over the conduct of the entire process of research. Now, next, of course, is beneficence. This is what we said that, to provide benefits. So you must always recalculating the benefits versus the risk and also the harm. And think about how you are going to protect their welfare, yeah. Now, thirdly, is about autonomy, right? Autonomy. Autonomy means that you are given the full consent about to participate in the research or not. Now, particularly when they are not able to fully, having that capacity to provide you with the consent. For example, someone with certain illnesses, right? Or someone with certain cognitive impairment, right? Or children, they probably do not fully understand what you intend to do, and probably that would impair, their ability to fully given you their consent. So the process of informing your participants about their rights and the process of the research, therefore, is very, very important. Yeah, and also when we talk about autonomy, we also talk about how do we protect the children. So as I said before, the example that I've given you, we don't just get the approval from schools. We have to get the approval from parents. We also need to get the approval from children and teenagers. And this is what we name it as action form. So in our research ethics application form, we do have a sections that you need to provide an action form. And an action form is a form that will be, filled in by the minor, the teenagers and the children involving in your research. So this is something that we wanted to know so that they have that autonomy to decide whether they want to involve or not to involve. Yeah. Now, next will be justice, right? Justice means that when you are collecting the data, make sure that you practice fairness and is not biased, and there's no conflict of interest. Now, when we talk about not bias and fairness, I want to ask you, because some research applications that we received, they said that they are going to select, specific university. And I noticed that this is exactly the university that I work with. Now, for example, I'm from UTM, so I'm actually collecting data from my own faculty and from my colleagues that I know, right? That where I have good relationships. Is this biased or unbiased? And sometimes I do receive applicants who say that, they're going to select A, B, C, D university. And I noticed that all these A, B, C, D universities are probably their research collaborators and they do have some prior research projects. So this is something that you have to declare when you submit your application. Declare, right? And to ensure that your instruments are validated not by your research collaborators, but third parties who have no conflict of interest, who can actually provide their objective comments about the process of your research and also your research instruments. Yeah. Now, lastly, will be do no harm. When you're conducting research, remember, you have to have that mindset of you are not going to harm the society. You are not going to harm the environment. And you have to ensure that the public interest in mind. Yeah. So you can see that there's a lot of consideration that we need to take into our decision when we are planning our research. Now, who we are. Now, I can only inform you a little bit about that because we also wanted to remain anonymous, yeah, to remain unbiased and also to avoid conflict of interest. Now, so UTM-REC, as first introduced by Narisa, we were established in 2020 and started our services in October 2022. So we are actually pretty new, yeah. And the committee is an independent body, yeah, comprising of medical, scientific professionals and non-medical, non-scientific members, and also lay person like public, members from the public that we wanted to get their reviews, their thoughts, yeah, in order for us to approve and provide a continuing review of human research and also involving trial protocols and amendments, and to ensure that the methods and material to be used in obtaining and documenting consent of research involving human and also animals. So we have three subcommittee. We have clinical, involving research that's collecting of human specimens, yeah, and also involving intrusive kind of research, and also conducting patients, they are clinically diagnosed in hospital setting. This falls under the clinical research. Apart from this, mainly it falls under non-clinical research. So we are responsible in reviewing a lot of application every month. And the third subcommittee is the Animal Research Ethics Committee. So you can see that we consist of different members. Yeah. So every application will be reviewed thoroughly by our members. So some of you probably have experienced that and you are doing your amendments, and some of them will think that, wow, it's pretty rigorous because you have to actually answer some of the question. And this is why I think I really applaud PJSS efforts in having today's sessions, right? So what do we do? In short, right, we wanted to govern make sure that the research involving the human participants conforms with what the government laws and regulation. Second is to safeguard the health and welfare of our staffs and students involved in scholarly activities, particularly using human beings as subjects. So it's not just the participants. We are also concerned about students and our staffs, the PI's welfare. For example, we do have students or researchers collecting data in probably an area that probably expose them to certain risk.